Where and when were you born?
I was born in Jamestown, North Dakota in 1966.
Where did you grow up, and what was your childhood like?
I grew up in western North Dakota on a small grain farm, and my childhood was mostly spent working and staying home. The roads weren't that great to go long distances, and we only had 2 channels, and communications weren't very good.
Where did you receive your education?
Well, I was lucky. I got to go all 12 years to the same school, kindergarten through 12, so that's 13 years, in New England, North Dakota. It was a school of about 100 people in the high school. The community was about 600 or 700.
What was your favorite aspect of the education that you received?
Probably the favorite thing that I remember was being a small school like that. You knew everybody. You knew the teachers. If you had a problem with certain people or certain teachers, you couldn't ignore it. You had to address it because you were going to see them every day. So even things that seemed like big things turned into small things after a while because you had to get along just out of sheer logistics.
Where and when did you get married, and to who?
I got married September 28th, 1991 in Newell, South Dakota to Kathy. She's still my wife now.
Who were your parents, and what did they do?
My dad was Herbert Gatzke and my mom was Lydia Gatzke, and they were married for 50-some years. We moved around 3 different times growing up, but continued to have unity through farming and the work we did. And Dad ran the family farm. He drilled water wells when I was younger. Drove school bus. Mom taught school from the time they got married until she retired, and then she continued to work at small jobs to stay busy and to provide more income.
How has society changed since you were a child?
I think the biggest difference that I see is in communication and knowledge. What used to take months to carry on a conversation, for example, if people were writing letters back and forth, can be done in seconds now, minutes. And with this communication improvement, there's a lot more knowledge and acceptance of what goes on in the world.
Did you ever think you would see an African American president?
Well, yeah, the idea of an African American as a president is just something that, in a matter of time, it had to happen just by the law of averages. It had to happen at some point. Whether I thought I would see it, I guess I never really gave it a thought, because I think if we're referring to our current President Obama, I don't think he got elected because he was black or because whatever his race was. I think the country was ready for a change and new ideas, and I think so far he's done a decent job, and his presidency will probably be judged in the future according to that, more so than whether he's African American or not.
In your opinion, does race and racism continue to play a role in American society?
I think so. I think it's as strong as ever. If you've ever gone to a sporting event in a certain area, one way or another, the way that people act and respond, and you can just see it on their faces. in that situation, but in different situations, like in malls or where everybody is intermingled, I think the racism is less than if you go somewhere where there is more of a certain type of people, because people kind of feed off of each other. You see that like in emergency situations, blizzards, earthquakes, that sort of thing. People of different ethnicities will work together better than they will when things are going really well and they have time to think about who they're helping and who their neighbors are, and you know, that type of idea. But yeah, I think it still exists, strong as ever.
Have you ever had friends of a different race?
Yes, I have. When I moved to Newell, I had an African American friend that his son also played in sports, and we would sit together and talk, and like it was kind of one of those situations where we probably would have been friends in any situation, but since we were both pulled out of our comfort zone of being with people that are like us, I think it was easier because we were kind of in a neutral situation. Also, when I was growing up, there was a private school on the other end of town. The school I went to was basically all Caucasian. The private school on the other end of town had Native Americans that would come up to our end of town and go to some classes that weren't offered at the private school. And we did get to know each other, and I don't know how great of friends we were, but knowing each other in the classroom helped each other when we did have sporting events where we may not have got along, but since we knew each other in a classroom situation, we could laugh and shake hands and touch hands and do all the stuff they do now. And I haven't had any contact with them since, but I'm sure if I saw them, we would stop and talk.
Have you ever been to a community that consisted primarily of a minority group?
About the only thing I can think of would be sporting events, say at Red Cloud High School or the Pine Ridge area. And it seemed to make a person uncomfortable because, as I kind of mentioned before, anytime there's a concentration of one ethnicity, it seems like stereotypes are more prevalent both ways. As people get more confident, they'll probably say things and do things that they probably wouldn't in a neutral setting. That would probably be the only time when I've been in a situation like that, other than prevalently Caucasian situation.